Kia ora koutou everyone. My name is Dr. Tanya Major. I'm a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Otago, and I am here today in replace of my supervisor, Professor Tony Merriman, who unfortunately is still travelling back from Spain today, so couldn't make it for this talk. And I'm going to talk to you about gout and sugary drinks. So gout is an extremely painful type of arthritis. It's characterised by intermittent inflammatory attacks that are massively painful. They've been described to me as like 1,000 needles stabbing you in your joints. And they are caused by urate crystals, that uric acid that Rick Johnson mentioned. When you get high levels in your blood, it starts to form crystals. These crystals sit within your joints, and your body recognises those as foreign and they attack them, and that is what a gout attack is. And gout is the most prevalent form of arthritis after osteoarthritis. It occurs in very high levels. In New Zealand, over 100,000 people have gout. We have the highest prevalence of gout in the world. Our prevalence of gout is on the rise. It's on the rise all over the world as well. Within 10 years, from 1999 to 2009, it increased from 1.4% to 2.7% here in New Zealand. The prevalence of gout increases with age, so this graph you can see here, as people reach to 60, 65 type age, the prevalence starts dramatically increasing. It's also higher in Māori and Pacific people. You can see that by the age of 70, 80, the Māori population's got above 30% prevalence of gout in their population. And people with gout often have serious comorbidities. So your chance of having diabetes as well as gout, 3.5 times more likely than someone without gout. Your chance of having cardiovascular disease, 2.7 times more likely than someone without gout. You're more likely to be obese, more likely to have fatty liver disease, kidney problems, all those conditions that Rick mentioned just before, they're more likely to happen with gout. And of course, how is this relevant to sugar? So, gout attacks are often triggered by eating certain foods. This is not what is causing you to get gout initially, but an actual attack onset can be triggered by eating certain foods. People with gout are often told fish, seafood, red meat, alcohol, they are all going to trigger your gout attacks. And this is the result of a questionnaire asking people, what foods have you noticed trigger your attacks? And after those first three that people are told about, one of our biggest players in there is sugary foods and drinks. About 14% of people who listed any food to trigger their gout listed some kind of sugary food or drink. And over 80% of the things that these people listed were sugary drinks, soft drinks. In addition, there is strong evidence to show that sugary drinks raise serum urate levels, 14 to 26 micromole per litre increase if you're having over 2 soft drinks per day versus none. That is a huge amount in terms of how much your urate levels are in general. Slightly lower if it's fruit juice, but still a significant increase. They also associate with increased risk of developing gout, 1.5 to 1.7 times more likely per extra soft drink you're drinking per day compared to drinking none. And they increase your risk of experiencing a gout attack. And what's interesting is that when you do these studies looking at artificially sweetened soft drinks, these artificially sweetened soft drinks do not have the same effect. In theory, these artificially sweetened soft drinks have got everything the same in them as a sugary sweetened soft drink, except for the sugar that they are sweetened with. And so that kind of tells us, not necessarily that artificially sweetened drinks are good, and I know Lisa Timoringa will be discussing that after the break, but it does tell us that it's the sugar that's in these sugary drinks that is having this relationship with urate levels with gout attacks. And these studies have been done all over the world, in the UK, in the US, and here in New Zealand, and they're coming up with consistent results. Here in New Zealand, the median intake of sugar of our population is 107 grams per day. The daily recommended intake for New Zealand is 90 grams per day. So in general, people are eating more sugar than is their daily recommended intake. And if you take out from, so on the left, right, on the right here, we have the sugar intake, median sugar intake of the New Zealand population as it stands. And on the left here, we have that same sugar intake, but with all the sugar from soft drinks removed. And you can see, so we have a dashed line at 90 where our recommended daily intake is. If you take out all the sugar people are consuming from sugary drinks, almost the majority of the population will be underneath our recommended daily intake levels. That's a pretty massive deal. So what is in sugary drinks that is bad, and Rick's mentioned it, it's fructose. So here in New Zealand, our sugary drinks are sweetened with sucrose, it's about equal levels of fructose and glucose. And in America, they've got high fructose corn syrup sweetening their soft drinks. These two, a lot of the time you hear high fructose corn syrup is bad, but in fact, sucrose and high fructose corn syrup have got the same amount of fructose in them sweetening these drinks. They're doing the same thing. Those other studies are showing you that no matter if you're in New Zealand drinking sucrose, sweetened sugary drinks, or if you're in America drinking high fructose corn syrup sweetened sugary drinks, they're doing the same thing. Fructose levels in fruit juices are around about the same depending on the juice. Of course, this is going to vary company to company, brand to brand, actual product to product. But the levels in these fruit juices are still just as high. Levels in fruit themselves, much lower. And as Rick mentioned earlier, they've got all the good stuff in them as well as the sugar. The good stuff that's making it harder for your body to process the sugar because it's got to process the other stuff as well. And so fructose and urate. Rick has shown you a slightly different version, but pretty much this exact pathway here. And as fructose is being broken down, it is not regulated like glucose being broken down and insulin regulates to your glucose breakdown. It sequesters all the energy, the ATP in your body, and it completely depletes it, and that ends up going along this pathway that results in uric acid being produced. And so when you eat fructose, your body's usual metabolism of other products is interrupted, and you start going down this other pathway, making heaps of uric acid. In addition, so this on the left here, this is a picture of all the different proteins in the kidneys that transport uric acid, and there's one, I don't have a pointer, hopefully you guys can see it, there's GLUT9 in the blue down the bottom here. It is not only a uric acid transporter, it is also a fructose and glucose transporter, and it is the transporter that has the biggest effect on your urate levels. So not only is fructose intake messing with how much uric acid you produce, it's also messing with how much uric acid you excrete. And this has been shown in association studies and in clinical trials, and the evidence is really piling up that this is what fructose is doing. In addition, so how is fructose causing a gout attack? So for someone to have a gout attack, they have to have high urate levels, but not everyone who has high urate actually ends up developing gout or having these gout attacks. And if we take this picture here we had before of the uric acid pathway, fructose breakdown turning into uric acid, there's actually another piece to it, which is the portion that is the caloric breakdown, and it results in the creation of lots of VLDL triglycerides, very low density lipid triglycerides. They're considered the bad ones. And interestingly enough, So I've said you need serum uric crystals in your joints to have a gout attack, but you also need a secondary signal to instigate all the inflammation in your gout attack. So this is a picture of the molecules that are involved in inflammation, and we've got the urate crystals starting off one set of the inflammation, and then these VLDL, which is coming from your fructose intake, instigating the other side. So it's not only causing you to have higher urate levels to be able to put these crystals in your joints, but it's also helping instigate these attacks of massive pain. Like, these are attacks that can debilitate someone for a week, prevent them from going to work, prevent them from really being able to associate with their family. They're just in pain, grumpy, no one wants to be around that. And it's not something they have to suffer. So in summary, gout in New Zealand is a serious health issue. There is very strong evidence that sugar has a role in gout and hyperuricemia risk. A large percentage of the dietary sugar intake here in New Zealand is from sugary drinks, and anything that encourages lower sugary drink intake is going to have multiple health benefits, and it's going to be better both for gout and for all those other conditions that go along with gout, the diabetes, the heart disease, the liver disease, the kidney disease, everything. So thank you. I'd just like to acknowledge various funding bodies that have been involved in this work, the School of Biomedical Sciences, which funds my job, and FIS for bringing me out here, and research group and collaborators. Thank you very much.